He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
All right, big news day today. Glad you're here. We are tracking whether or not the nominee for U.S. Attorney for D.C., Ed Martin, is going to make it through. This is a big topic of conversation because it's a very narrow vote given the makeup of the Senate. And I will tell you, as of right now, it's not looking great, but there are still cards that can be played. For those of you who aren't familiar with Ed, then you probably haven't been with me too long, because Ed was one of my main fill-ins at Breitbart News Daily when I was the host over there. He's just a great guy. He worked very closely for many years with Phyllis Schlafly's group, the Eagle Forum, and so he's been a card-carrying member of the anti-establishment wing of the conservative movement for an incredibly long time, and that's just a great. It's a great indicator that he could do a good job in this really vital role. So the U.S. Attorney for D.C. is a very powerful office. And if he's not confirmed by May 20th, then according to the reports that I'm reading, then Judge Boasberg, one of the most left-wing guys in the whole court system, is going to be able to make this pick for Trump. So Trump wanted him initially to be the chief of staff of the Office of Management and Budgets, but then they moved him and to this role. And so this would be a opportunity for him not just to act as the local district attorney for DC, but he can prosecute crime in DC. And this, of course, touches on a lot of federal crime, and it will allow for him to really work on cleaning up government corruption, and not to mention cleaning up our capital, which is one of the most beautiful cities in the United States in terms of major cities, and should be a crown jewel for the country, and is not. And it should be something that inspires people to want to go visit, particularly while Trump is there. And Ed could be that type of guy. And Trump obviously clearly likes Ed because he's got those conservative bona fides. And that's the thing that I'm looking for. It's my number one thing, is even more than, brain power or you're the right age, or it's have you been a fighter for conservative values for your whole life? Have you put it on the line for conservative values? Ed Martin's that guy. So he obviously would be great, but he was a enthusiastic supporter of the January 6th objections to the certification of the election, and this causes problems for people. And it's part of why I was never into January the 6th, and this is not news to most of you, but it was one of these things where I never really spent a lot of time talking about it. And I will tell you clearly, I think most of what was done that day was a mistake. Mike Pence was never going to allow for Trump to overturn the election. That was never going to happen. But what it did is it got a lot of people in trouble unnecessarily. That said, I will say that the left denied the entire 2016 election for 4 straight years. They acted as though Trump colluded with the Russian government. So I was, by and large, I'm okay with it. But I think that obviously smashing windows in the Capitol was not a great look for the MAGA movement, and it didn't age very well. A lot of people got in a lot of trouble, went to jail. Fully support Trump pardoning everyone who was involved that day. But I'm just saying, from a strategic, tactical perspective, I didn't think it was going anywhere. That's my main point. The frustration resonates with me. Obviously, everyone there was overcharged, and the fact that Trump freed everyone, I think, is an indication of that. But I will say that I knew that if you were involved in that thing, it was going to cause problems for you. And this is a good example. And I want to bring this on the show because I know that you guys are in the sort of the Marlow wing of conservatism. I know some of you wish I'd be more hardcore on this, but I'm trying to share with you why I'm not. It's because of the headache it causes. I'm generally anti-headache. I've got a worldview where I try to be anti-headache because that allows me to take on more substantial things in my life, like more jobs and more children. So if they showing up at protests are not going to work, it's typically not my favorite thing. It feels very inefficient to me. This is a perfect example, because if we miss out on Ed Martin for this, it'll be a real shame. But the bottom line is we should not miss out on him for this. I think all should be swept under the rug with January the 6th. All should be forgiven, lessons learned, and let's move on. And yet that is not the opinion of Senator Thom Tillis, who seems to be the main objection to getting Martin across the line. Here he is speaking right here.
That what happened on January the 6th was wrong. It wasn't It was not prompted or created by other people to put those people in trouble. They made a stupid decision, and they disgraced the United States by absolutely destroying the Capitol, and I can't have any patience for it.
It's just such an exaggeration. It's so irritating. North Carolina, I hope you're paying attention to this. It is we did not destroy the Capitol. It was like there's some mild damage to it. It got cleaned up. It wasn't great. But why did we have to act like this is the end of the world? Why do we have to act like January the 6th was 9/11 times 100? It doesn't make any sense. We should all move on, and he should say that. Why can't anyone have I know that the spice of life is variety and having disagreement, but I don't understand why my perspective is not more common. Why does it have to be January the 6th was awesome, or January the 6th was a national disgrace and we can never get past it? It's like, let's just get past it. Let's just move on. Let's move on.
It sounds like your concerns were not abbreviated.
But let me be very clear, though. Mr. Martin did a good job of explaining the one area that I think he's probably right, that there were some people that were over-prosecuted. But there were some, 200 or 300 of them, that should have never gotten a pardon, and he agreed with that. But the disagreement there had more to do. If Mr. Martin were being put forth as a U.S. attorney for any district except the district where January 6th happened, the protest happened, I'd probably support him, but not in this district.
All right, so this is just so mealy mouthed. I'm hoping that some of the softening indicates that he's open-minded to coming around on this, because it does. If we lose out on this pick and Boasberg gets to make the pick because Tom Tillis was too principled to forgive people for something that happened on January the 6th 5 years ago or 4.5 years ago, that would be just absolutely idiotic. And I am hopeful he's not idiotic. But overall, this is an extremely important post. And if Martin gets through, then he's going to have the ability to put the establishment on notice. He's going to be able to be a destroyer of the deep state. He's going to be able to wreck the status quo. And these forces who are intent on stopping him leads me to believe that they're just doing the bidding of the status quo, of the establishment. So Grassley and Thune have got to get through to him. And I feel like there's a chance. If this is undecided by the time that this show goes to the air, and it probably will be, then feel free to call Senator Tillis. You can fairly easy to look up. I would definitely recommend this. But Tillis is apparently spread around that he's got more people with him who would vote no if this came up for a vote. We got to bring this up for a vote. I want all the people who are going to stand in the way of Ed Martin and stand for Judge Boasberg to get to make this pick. If you're going to do that, then I want you to be able to have your voice counted, have your name heard. So, but as of now, the nomination would fail without Tillis. So, and we're told Grassley will not bring it to the floor unless he thinks he's going to get a win here. I just don't think that should be the standard. I think we need to have everyone's voice heard, everyone's vote counted, so we can see who's out there. So let's hopefully the Tillis is just bargaining for something that I'm not seeing. And overall, it's just a great lesson that we should not overreact to things, and who has gotten to Senator Tillis to suggest that he needs to overreact at this level. I don't get it. I don't like it. And Ed Martin should absolutely be confirmed. It would be a great thing for this country if he is. All right. The next breaking news item that we got going is that we have got in Washington, D.C., in the White House right now, President Trump is meeting with the new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. Recall that with Mark Carney, I think Trump is in a terrific position when it comes to negotiating with Carney and with negotiating with Canada in general, because Carney, he knows, is on the other side politically, and that makes sometimes you have more clarity when you're negotiating with someone. This is something that I learned, and I only took a couple of graduate courses, and one of them was in negotiations. And one of the first things you learn is that it's actually sometimes harder to negotiate amongst friends. They're less creative. Not say Pierre Poilievre would have been a friend of Trump, but his worldview is more aligned. And perhaps you start considering that you would like the other person to succeed. Ironically, you end up not growing the pie. And this is, if I could tell you the main lesson I learned in my graduate school negotiations course that I took at Berkeley, it's that looking for opportunities to grow the pie is an essence of a great negotiation. is not usually a zero-sum game when you're negotiating. Usually you can throw something in that the other side wants, and that can expand the scope of the negotiation, and that could lead you quicker to a resolution, and it could make the other side happier. And this is something that is an opportunity that I think presents itself more sometimes when you are more adversarial and you're not necessarily just in agreement all the time and buddies. So I feel like Trump knows this, Trump as world's preeminent negotiator. So I'm optimistic that even though we wanted Poilievre to win as conservatives, that maybe perhaps Carney will be easier to negotiate with. So Trump met with Carney, and Trump does a great greeting with all the world leaders who come to the White House. And I just think this is absolutely such a breath of fresh air. It's great Americana. And I love that Trump just seems to be really enjoying his life every day. And let me show you some of this footage, those of you who are watching on the streams.
Mr. President, are you close to a trade deal?
Canada, as you meet the new Prime Minister, sir. Do you think this federal punishment breaks tomorrow?
All right, so it looks good. So they're meeting. Okay, so let's get some of the content from what happened there. And Trump immediately gets to work on trolling. Here's where he goes.
First thing, if Canadians don't want it, would you respect that?
Sure, I would. But this is not necessarily a one-day deal. This is over a period of time they have to make that decision. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, if I may. Respectfully, Canadians' view on this is not going to change on the 51st state. Secondly, we are the largest client of the United States in the totality of all the goods. So we are the largest client of the United States. We have a tremendous auto sector between the two of us, and the changes they've made have been helpful. 50% of a car that comes from Canada is American. That's not like anywhere else in the world. And to your question about is there one thing? No, this is a bigger discussion.
A couple of things here with this. So first of all, Trump will not dismiss the 51st state talk. And this is really important because I'll cut to the chase. I don't think we're really looking to co-opt Canada. But I love that Trump challenges us to question norms that we've had in the past and to think, well, what could be? Why do we have to accept things exactly the way they've always been? And when it comes to Canada being the 51st state, there's actually quite a bit of logic to it. First of all, if you think of the broader principle that expanding is good in general. I'm not saying it's not always good. Things can get too big, but in general, it's a good thing. And if you think about making sure that our entire continent, that we have control of the entire continent and we're not dependent on China, Canada, but that's the Freudian slip because China has encroached into Canada. They tried to interfere in the election on behalf of Mark Carney. Nothing was said about this. We saw that there were Canadians who were killed in China ostensibly for petty drug issues or drug charges. And that Canada just went along with it, seemed to accept it. Canada's encroaching in the Arctic. China is encroaching in the Arctic, and Canada is there. Canada's territory goes all the way up to the Arctic. So do we want Canada to be in charge of all that? Would it be better if we were just in charge? And here is the main thing. The China of it all is so big. Fentanyl, the immigration, things flowing into our country from the vast northern border that we're not in control of. All that's obvious. All that's important. But the big thing, the thing where I'm looking down the field, looking over the horizon, is when it comes to the energy sector. When it comes to energy, that we have got a AI arms race that's taking place with China. And in order to get enough energy, in order to fuel that, in order to make sure that we're at the cutting edge of the AI arms race, we need to have as much access to cheap, abundant energy as humanly possible. And Canada has typically been has not been helpful in this regard. And so they've not been helpful for a number of reasons, but largely it's the green politics that are up there. It's the fact that so many of them have bought into the environmental hokum that has led to the not tapping these vast energy resources that are within their soil, slowing down the progress of pipelines, things of that nature. And that is the sort of thing that we would like to be able to control in an ideal world. Now, is it worth it to try to buy Canada or conquer Canada? I don't know, but I like exploring this idea because if they think we're serious, maybe they will do some of the math that I'm doing right now, and they will come back to the table and they will think that, well, perhaps actually that we could be a lot of help for them, and we want to stay independent, we want to stay sovereign, and we don't want to become part of the United States in general. So maybe it's incumbent upon us to be good partners, to be strong neighbors for the United States. And that involves national security issues. It involves doing what they can to protect America and being terrific business partners. So Trump throwing that out there, a lot of it's a troll, but there's a point to it. I haven't asked him about it. I'll try to ask him about it, but he won't give it to me literally. But you see it. So let's play the rest of this clip. Let's see where Carney seems to get it. I'm guessing he gets what Trump is doing, but because he's not being hysterical. So he's not overreacting. So let's see where he goes.
There are much bigger forces involved, and this will take some time and some discussions, and that's why we're here, to have those discussions, and that is represented by who's sitting around the table.
See, the conflict is, and this is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation, but we want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada.
It's really fun. We got some more. Here we go.
And by not trading, we're losing nothing. So we're saving $1 trillion. It's a lot. But they want to negotiate, and they want to have a meeting, and we'll be meeting with them at the right time.
I think he's talking about China at this point.
I have not met with them, of course. You would know if I met. I'd tell you they want to meet. But, we are right now. Look, they're suffering greatly. Their economy is suffering greatly because they're not doing trade with the U.S. And they made most of their money off the U.S. Don't kid yourself. They don't make the money off other countries like this. And
yeah. So one thing that also happened during the course of this exchange that Trump said that India has already agreed to eliminate tariffs on U.S. goods. India, as an example, has one of the highest tariffs in the world. We're not going to put up with that. They agreed already to drop it. They'll drop it to nothing. They've already agreed. We're going to put down some numbers to say that our country is open for business. And what's fantastic about this is that the working with India is another way to undermine China. Now, we want to reshore as much as we can. We want to make sure that we have a thriving American middle class and working class in the center of our country. The stuff that globalism gutted, we want to bring all that back. But there's a secondary, and it's almost the primary goal, is to weaken China and to uncouple from China. And one of the best ways to do that is to forge a strong ties with India, who can do a lot of the stuff China's been doing for us and can do it in a much more hospitable way. They're much better partners, with much more potential. I think that Trump gets along very well with Modi, and I think that that is one of these places where there is huge levels of negotiation that can be done. And if there is a reciprocal tariff there, where they're not tariffing a lot of our stuff, where we'll be able to, I think, get a lot of that manufacturing that's not realistically going to be done in the United States. We want as much in the United States as we can, but realistically, it's not going to be everything. You get some of that stuff in India, and that's a market improvement. And it also pulls a lot of countries away from the sinosphere if India is thriving and their economy is growing, largely thanks to deals with the U.S. So that's all deeply positive. Trump sees all that, and I think he's going to be recruiting a lot of people to this vision and this worldview. All right, I got a little more Trump in Canada. Let's do it.
Yeah, please.
What's the top concession you want out of Canada? The top concession you want out of Canada?
Concession?
Yes.
Friendship.
But that's not a concession.
No, we're going to be friends with Canada. Regardless of anything, we're going to be friends with Canada.
This is beautiful, but I like this. He doesn't accept the media's premise. I like this in your own life when you're debating people. You don't always have to accept their premise. You can occasionally just say that I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. And just because you volunteered something, it does not mean that that is how we're going to go about things.
Be friends with Canada. Canada is a very special place to me. I know so many people that live in Canada. My parents had relatives that lived in Canada, my mother in particular. And I love Canada. I have a lot of respect for the Canadians. Wayne Gretzky, I mean, how good, the great one. You happen to have a very, very good hockey player right here on the Capitals, who I have a lot of respect. He is a big, tough cookie, too. Just broke the record. And he's a great guy. And, we had the team here, and I got to know a lot of the players. But now Canada is a very special place.
Yeah, you're talking about Alexander Ovechkin, who I guess has the most goals of all time now. Is that true? I'm not a big hockey guy, but oddly enough, I had a friend growing up who won a Stanley Cup. It's a longer story for a different day, but kind of wild. It's odd for an LA kid to be on a Stanley Cup winning team. Trump likes sports. He does. He wants to talk about sports all the time. It's always a blast when he does. So here's what's going on here is that he's not just talking about Wayne Gretzky. He does have an affinity for Canada. He's not looking for Canada to suffer, but does that mean that he is going to try to make them the 51st state? I don't know. Maybe it is. All right. So whenever Trump makes moves, you always got to see how the left reacts to them. Let's see how J.B. Prtizker, who is the new Democrat trying to run for president, all 700 pounds of him, the governor of a failing state in Illinois where people can't leave the state quick enough, super high tax rate, super high crime rate. Let's see what Prtizker does.
Every year, over 600,000 Canadians travel south to the great state of Illinois. It's not hard to imagine why. Not only do we boast the United States' third largest metropolis, but from Rockford to Carbondale, Illinois is full of people who are happy to show you why the land of Lincoln is so great. I don't blame anyone whose appetite for visiting might have soured with our current president and the shameful way he's represented us on the national stage.
So I flagged this because we all would like to live in a country where we have enough unity and cohesion where we don't trash our own country to foreigners. We don't pander to foreigners by trashing our own country. You see what he's doing. It's very garden variety liberalism these days, how they behave. But just know that the crowd that always calls for unity are the people who are pandering to foreigners to come here and saying, no, we hate our own government too. But here we would like for you to come and spend your tax dollars in the city of Chicago, even though it's very cold and a lot of crime is happening here. So it's one of these things where I just don't I wish America was a different way, and I would like for us to reject it, especially when you've got a failed governor who is a Nepo baby who's going to run for president. It's just note that he doesn't have much, and trashing Trump is all he's doing. Right here, he's not saying anything really that important. Let's continue.
As of late. But as governor and self-designated chief marketing officer of Illinois, I want to reassure you that we're as eager as ever to have you come here. As you head south through our shared Great Lakes, Chicago is ready to welcome you as a gateway to Illinois, or as we call it, the middle of everything. And everything is the best word to sum up what Illinois can offer you. From world-class dining, thrilling sports teams, and a dynamic and historic music scene, to miles of national parks, lakefronts, and outdoor adventures, our state is ready for visitors from all over the world.
All right, so that's great. I wouldn't need any more of that. Just generic pandering, but I just didn't like the attack on Trump, so worth highlighting. Okay, other things that are going on. Getting these Democrat presidential candidates on their heels is another, I think, second-tier thing that Trump is doing. And I've been spending a lot of time thinking about the Hollywood tariffs that Trump has offered, put in place, where he's proposed 100% tariff on movies filmed outside the U.S. It seems unrealistic, and I know it's confusing because one of you jumped in the comments on my YouTube page and was saying that my reluctance to embrace tariffs on Hollywood is because of I'm a California guy, and it's the tariffs on Hollywood making production overseas would help Hollywood. So it would help California. It would increase the amount of business that's done here because people wouldn't be going to places like Vancouver and Eastern Europe to film stuff like they have been doing. LA, according to reporting from our Breitbart, our big Hollywood bureau, our Breitbart Entertainment Bureau, is now, I think, the sixth best city to make movies in, which is, if you think about it, that's very low, considering the whole industry is based here, the Hollywood signs, all the glitz and glamour, all the history was here, and this is now the sixth best place, and I bet you it might not even be that high, but everyone's acknowledging that other places around the world are better, and that's why you see so much production has been moved to places like New Mexico and Georgia within the United States, and when people can go overseas, they can, and there are whole industries that have come up. and have been built up in these places where you can get crews, you can get huge teams together that are very responsible, know what they're doing, very organized, very cheap, have high technology, especially where we're moving with computer generated stuff and AI. It's just going to get easier and easier to not make stuff here if you don't want to, because you can make it wherever you want. So Trump now proposing these tariffs, and I'm trying to make sense of it because I didn't really see what he was going after. And so I checked in with John Carney, our economic and finance editor, and he says basically other countries have all sorts of subsidies and tax breaks for filming in their countries. So basically Trump is trying to set up a magnet to draw production back from abroad. And he wants to discourage he's just basically offsetting with a tariff so that if you're going to do it, then you don't end up saving money. So you got to make stuff here. So that is pretty consistent with Trump's worldview, even though he's benefiting Hollywood. So Carney also doesn't think that there's a clear plan that's been put into place. So we don't necessarily know exactly what the plan is going to be. But Jerome Hudson, our entertainment editor, he's added something that's really interesting, that he thinks it could be a wedge issue that could lead to a win for Trump, because Hollywood could separate in half, because a lot of the blue collar people, a lot of the union people, which make up a lot of those jobs in Hollywood, if you see a big movie that you go to in a theater, it could have 1,000 people who worked on it. And these aren't all hotshots who go to the Met Gala. I will plug at our Breitbart Fight Club show with John Binder today. I get into Breitbart Confidential, which I do every day, an interview with one of my editors at Breitbart. John and I go through, he's our top immigration reporter, so we go through all the immigration data, all the deportations that are taking place. We walk through Trump's plan to pay illegal aliens to leave. But then he's also a noted fashion reporter. He's been profiled in the New York Times for his fashion notes column, which is terrific. We go through all of the Met Gala, and we go through all the dresses and the outfits, and he critiques the good, the bad, and the ugly, and sometimes there's overlap in those. He's got terrific takes, so it's a really fun conversation. But one thing that Jerome points out is that this could be a wedge issue for Trump, because a lot of those blue-collar types, behind-the-scene workers, they have traditionally supported Democrats, and now Trump is making a big move to try to, I think, get those votes and perhaps drive a wedge within Hollywood. International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, motion picture division leader Lindsay Doherty said the Trump initiative is a strong step towards totally reining in the studio's un-American addiction to outsourcing our members' work. I mean, that's very compelling. It's persuasive to me. And he's got Newsom, who is a potential challenger. I think Newsom's kind of not doing great lately. I don't think his messaging has been very crisp. But Newsom, who is, of course, a potential challenger to Trump, is definitely on his back foot here, because he's probably going to have to partner with Trump to some degree, or at least talk Trump into something. But Newsom would benefit from this in California, so he doesn't really want to stand in the way. He has, let's see, because he's been tweeting about this. I thought I had pulled up the correct tweet, and I haven't. Okay, here it is. California built the film industry, and we're ready to bring even more jobs home. We've proven what strong state incentives can do. Now it's time for real federal partnership to make America film again. So he's actually using President Trump's language, and he's put out a big statement in the New York Times. So he wants to get something done with Trump, and I think he's wise to do that. He's modified it a little bit, and he has since asked for Trump to come up with a film tax credit instead of a tariff. So basically, you give federal government money to incentivize people to stay here instead of the tariff, which is more penal. So more of a reward for staying versus a punishment for leaving. But Trump likes the tariff approach, which is the punishment for leaving. And it really is dividing Hollywood. A lot of top Hollywood bosses are furious about this, but a lot of the workers are going to like it. And Newsom might decide he ends up going with Trump on this, and that would be very clever. So I'm starting to understand it. This is very fun that Trump does. He does things that are unique and original, and it is not something I would have anticipated. He would have been focused on this at this point, but it really could work out, because Hollywood, I don't think, knows exactly what to make of these maneuvers. Trump also threw in some digs at Newsom. He said he can't win for president after the bullet train failures and the fire failures. So he does see Newsom, I think, as a potential threat to his legacy. And who knows? So Trump would obviously like to see a Republican take over for him. You know as well as I do that the legacy media is broken. For decades, big cable filtered information to hide the truth from Americans. It's no small reason why trust in mass media has hit historic lows. But thanks to outlets like Breitbart, the truth can break through, providing facts and voices legacy outlets block from the airwaves. But big cable still has the ability to control access to information you want. They do it by limiting access to something called spectrum, the invisible airwaves that power affordable wireless internet, and by forcing you into their bundles, keeping independent media out of reach. Leaders in Congress like Ted Cruz are working with President Trump to expand spectrum access for more Americans. Our president offered additional access in his first term, and he can raise $100 billion now by doing it again. And conservatives like Stephen Moore argue it's a perfect fit for the current economic plans. Call your legislator now and tell them to expand spectrum access today if you dig what these guys are saying, so more Americans can read the news in independent outlets like this one. You could also learn more at endthecableopoly.org. That's endthecableopoly.org. Trump, this is a great roast of Newsom because we've been talking about having bullet trains in California for my entire life, from LA to San Francisco, from LA to Vegas, and we never built any of them. There was one bullet train that's been built, and it's from the town of Merced in northern central California to Silicon Valley, basically, toward the San Jose area. So basically, cheap workers who can live in a cheaper part of the state can get bullet trained in to work for big tech. That's the only fast high-speed rail that we built despite decades and decades of discussion of this. And so this is a clean bust by Trump. And of course, Newsom botched the LA fires, which is a big pain in Trump's butt. So Trump's got to be very unhappy about this. He's got Rick Grenell out there. We got Lee Zeldin out here all the time. These guys could be doing other stuff that's on Trump's agenda. Instead, they need to shepherd the rebuilding of California, the reestablishment of huge areas of California. It's going to be huge political headaches because the left is going to try to rebuild the place where the American dream thrived in California, particularly the Palisades, and they're going to try to put in all sorts of these multifamily homes and the walking cities and all the stuff that's on the woke agenda. That's what's going to happen. And Trump doesn't want to deal with any of that. So he's got to be pretty frustrated with it, though I know he gets past things, he gets over things pretty quick in a lot of cases. But he's right on this. He's right to roast Newsom, and he might have him cornered here. And I find that to be quite enjoyable and compelling. All right, other things in the news worth touching on right now. I mentioned my conversation with John Binder about the deportations and about what's going on with the immigration agenda. Kristi Noem was testifying in the Congress, and here's Congresswoman Lauren Underwood questioning Noem. I'm going to play you something, give you a sense of what the debate is like in Washington right now.
This administration is not just ignoring the constitutional power of the people's elected representatives. It is also violating the fundamental right of individuals. Do you believe that the Constitution grants everyone in our country the right to due process, including non-citizens?
The administration has the authority to...
Ma'am, I'm looking for a yes.
Okay, so the suggestion that we have due process for non-citizens is a hoax. Repeat this over and over. I don't know why I'm the only one who's pointing this out. I feel like I am, but we cannot give due process to non-citizens. It is impossible. We have and I get into this in the Fight Club show with Binder today. We don't even know how many people are here. It's the Pew Research said that there were 12 million illegal aliens in 2007. Somehow today they would like to convince us that there's only 11 million. So somehow there's fewer. So we know that's not true. So if you understand that we have no concept of how many illegal aliens are here, and we're going to afford them all due process, this is not possible even if we wanted to. We don't want to because they're criminals, and giving them due process incentivizes more border crossing, which we do not want to do. And that's fundamental to the Trump administration and what they stand for. But I will say, which is important, that even if you wanted to, even if your bleeding heart overwhelmed you and that we must grant due process to every illegal alien that's here, it would take decades, if not hundreds of years, and we'd have to completely reimagine the court system. There's already a backlog of millions of immigration cases in the United States right now, and that is only going to quintuple, who knows how many more cases that would be if we granted due process to everyone. So there's years of backlog, and that is going to become decades, who knows, maybe even centuries. So I wish Kristi Noem would say this. She's not going to, and Underwood's not going to really give her a chance. But I wish that she would be able to say this. I don't think she would, even if she had the time. But Underwood is you're going to hear, she's not going to.
Ma'am, I'm looking for a yes or no question. Yes or no. Do you believe the concept? Yes, ma'am. Do you,
we have not conducted
claiming my time, Mr. Chairman?
Time is yours.
Okay. Secretary Noem, I'm just looking for a yes or no here. Do you believe the Constitution guarantees due process to everyone in America?
Due process is exactly what this Congress lays out.
Yes or no?
It is,
okay, ma'am, I'll take that as a no.
On due process
excuse me, I'm trying to ascertain your understanding of the law as it applies to your department, and you as its leader should be able to give us a yes or no answer, because judge after judge has ruled that the law is not being followed. Do you believe that the U.S. government has the authority to deport American citizens?
No, and we are not deporting U.S. citizens.
I'm so happy to hear that you do not believe that the law gives you that authority, because the federal government has no authority under U.S. laws to deport any American citizen. And
So she's just grandstanding, and she's an Illinois congresswoman, and her district is not a safe seat. So, she might be someone to keep an eye on. But we're not deporting American citizens. We don't want to deport American citizens. We want to deport illegal aliens. But the Democrats have decided that they take a stand for every single illegal alien imaginable. And I think that's a trap that Trump has set, and I think Trump is doing very well there. And I think that this is I just wish someone would explain that there's no due process for illegal aliens. And for whatever reason, we allow for that talking point to take hold for far too long. So, but anyway. All right. Other stuff that's going on. We got footage of Breitbart News of Antifa trying to burn down the University of Wisconsin campus. It's so wild, because Wisconsin is one of these. This happens in the Midwest, where some of the major cities go very left, but it's a big university town, and it's become, and Madison in particular, is just a place where there is so much. It's like a petri dish of left-wing activists. I did a big profile on this area in my Summer of Rage series that I put out in 2022. It's one of the biggest research projects I've done. But looking into militant radicals, a lot of pro-abortion groups gathering in Madison who would organize online, and then they would commit violence, and they would do it in a way where they would intimidate, but I don't think they were literally trying to kill people, but they would have these pro-abortion radicals that would firebomb these clinics that were for crisis pregnancy centers that were trying to counsel mothers to be able to have their children, for example. And this is during that Summer of Rage in 2022 that we discussed. And a lot of threats, a lot of intimidation, particularly from anti-abortion groups like Jane's Revenge. And what was the other one? Ruth Sent Us. That was the other one. So these are radical pro-abortion activists attacking people who are pro-life. But it's just noteworthy because the university connections are so important. I talk about this quite a bit. I'm on a kick with this thing. The universities are just ruining our cities. They're not just indoctrinating our children, and they're not just undoing a lot of the values that parents give their children over their childhood, but then they come in these cities and they ruin them, and they create an environment where left-wing stuff happens. I witnessed this firsthand at Berkeley. The real radicals on campus weren't the students. They were the people who lived in the area, the people who ran the communist bookstore. I mean, the real activism came from people who weren't even students. But they were gravitated towards that university center because it creates an economy, and it creates a comfortable environment for the radicalism to take place, to fester, metastasize. And that's what we're seeing. So we got footage of that for you at Breitbart News. Do we have some footage now? Missy? Yeah, Missy pulled some. Let's play some of it. Videos from Katie Davis-Court, who's a young activist, and I've had her on the show in the past, or in my Breitbart News Daily, so maybe I'll reach out to her at some point.
Yeah, crazy.
So this is different. So this is left-wing radicals in Arizona, I'm told. Wow. So this is the Post Millennial posted this. So I guess we got a rash around the country coming up. So we're seeing some radicalism, and that's okay. Cool. Well, it's not good, but absolutely very interesting to see that if we're gonna see this revival of left-wing militant behavior, it makes sense given what we're seeing in the rhetoric, where everyone acts like the evil Trump is doing, fascism is returning, we're deporting Americans without due process. They're acting as though we're in a constant constitutional crisis, which we're not. And those talking points do send a signal that it's okay to start being violent, because if we really were in a fascist takeover, of course we could do some violence. That's really the point that they're making. So, all right. So we got it. We'll keep you posted at Breitbart News, and I'll bring some of this to your attention on the show. A couple of overseas items that I feel like are important. Chaos in Germany. The Bundestag, which is their parliament, failed to elect a new chancellor for the first time in history. Recall that 2 days ago that the Alternative for Deutschland, AfD, which is the second biggest party in Germany, was labeled as an extremist group, and this probably was a big part of this. But the chancellor parent, Friedrich Merz, who we discussed on the show a couple months back, was leading a two-party coalition that was supposed to take power yesterday, failed in their ability to form a government. So we're not able to build a coalition. They capped out at 310 out of 621 votes. They need to get to 316 to get a majority. Couldn't do it. AfD's call for a new election, but it's exciting. There's some real pushback going on in Germany and across Europe in general. So we got a lot of reporting for you on this at Breitbart News, but a lot of potential. We're seeing good signs in the UK. We're seeing good signs in Germany. We're seeing good signs in a lot of spots in Europe. So there's some negatives. I mean, Canada kind of messed it up. So, but we'll see overall where that goes. We'll keep you posted. Our London bureau, Breitbart News. Also, a lot of breaking news out of Israel. Israel's destroyed Yemen's main airport, cutting down the Houthi weapons supply route that they've got there. I boned up on this before the show with Joel Pollack, who's our resident Middle East expert. He traced it back to Trump attacking the Houthis in a overwhelming way, which caused Iran to pull back from the region. This is all about Iran. Trump wants to have an Iran nuclear deal. And I've got some suspicion that if we're not careful here, it could end up being not a great deal. It could be end up being the sort of deal that is very reminiscent to Obama's disastrous deal from Obama's second term, which was Obama's signature piece of legislation. We'll definitely bring some guests in as we get closer to this and go through some of the background. But the Houthis, despite Trump's overwhelming attack, kept attacking Israel and the U.S. Navy. So Trump bombed their capital of Sana'a. And then on Sunday, which is a couple days ago, a Houthi missile got through Israel's Iron Dome defense shield and hit Israel's main airport. It hit a grassy area. It didn't kill anyone or harm anyone that bad, but it was still pierced the shield. So Trump said the United States would hold Iran directly responsible for their funding of the Houthis. And then so Netanyahu just hit Iran in the meantime and bombed Yemen and destroyed a major airport in Sana'a. And so this combined attack, especially this attack in the airport that I mentioned, is going to cut off a lot of rebel supply lines from Iran to the Houthis. So that is, they can fire still more weapons that they already have, but they're not going to be getting any more anytime soon. This is, again, some genius from Trump. I mean, Israel is fighting this war, essentially a proxy war. It's leaving us mostly out of harm's way, but the bad guys are still on major defense from Israel. So, and then Trump made an announcement today that the Houthi rebels promised not to attack any more ships. So the United States is going to not bomb them, and that's what we want. We want not bombing. So this is the perfect peace through strength approach. So Israel's boxed in because they're doing the heavy lifting here, but they have already done a lot of damage. So I think that's neutralized an inherent threat, an imminent threat right now. And perhaps we could maybe go back to the table with Iran for a deal that could perhaps be even more favorable than today than it was yesterday. So absolutely, again, expert stuff from Trump and Netanyahu, which is the standard. And you love to see it. All right, let's see. Do we have anything else? I think that's good in terms of content for today. I've got some email that I wanted to highlight for people. Let's see. Monica emails, I suspect the movie Tariff is a push against Canada in particular. So much Hollywood work seems to get done in Vancouver these days. Maybe another negotiation tool for Trump. Brilliant. I can't believe I hadn't thought of this. I mean, it's I should have thought of this. But the day before, for him to announce this, the day before he meets with Carney is clearly a point of discussion. I didn't have any audio of that to share with you on the show, but I'd be shocked if that didn't come up, because I bet Trump finds it to be very odd that Hollywood largely takes place in Vancouver. So it's a great point. Dave Smith emails, "Hey Alex, I see Trump's suggestion that anyone leaving get $1,000 and free plane tickets. Some of the left are saying he doesn't have the financial authority to do so without Congress. I have a better idea. We need a billionaire to step up and say we'll pay $5,000 for the first $10,000 to self-deport, single person or head of the family, and get that rolling. It's only $50 million. I kind of like this stuff. It's fun, especially if you just did it as a publicity stunt. It doesn't have to be literal, but get someone out there and say, hey, we're going to self-fund, we're going to GoFundMe or whatever it is, $50 million for the first 10,000 deportees. And maybe we'll throw an extra 500 each. So maybe we'll make it, maybe we'll make an extra 60 million. So let's find it. Let's just draw attention to it. I think it's good. Why not? But overall, I gotta, I guess, bone up on this when it comes to the constitutional standpoint. But if Trump can't get, money to do deportations when it's just such a fraction of the budget, then what can you do as president? It feels like I gotta get some constitutional scholarship going on this, because if Trump can't spend anything, then that is not co-equal branches of government. That makes the legislative branch way more powerful. So I got to figure out if that's true. But I still like the idea of the publicity stunt.
What happens when a culture starts trading truth for comfort? Live Not by Lies is a bold new docuseries by Angel Studios. It uncovers how soft totalitarianism is quietly taking root in the West through censorship, digital surveillance, and the erosion of free thought. Inspired by Rod Dreher's best-selling book, the series features firsthand accounts from survivors of communism who recognize the warning signs because they lived through them themselves. The stories are raw, deeply moving, and they're drawing parallels between yesterday's totalitarian regimes and today's cultural climate. This isn't just about history. This is about right now and what we risk if we stay silent. Live Not by Lies is a challenge to every viewer to reject comfort at the expense of conscience and to stand firm in faith, family, and freedom. Streaming now on Angel Guild. Join today by visiting angel.com/Marlow. That's angel.com/Marlow.
All right, last one for today comes from Rick. He says, good morning. Let's get that place reopened, referring to Alcatraz. And he sends me a video from 2015 of a shark attack that apparently took place right next to Alcatraz, which is just really, really great. Let's play some of it from YouTube. All right, so you can see it's right next to Alcatraz, and then the shark just jumps out of the water and just eats something, and it's very red and bloody, and it looks really fun. And then you see a flood of people, presumably tourists, just heading right over there. We got a slow-mo of it. Let me put the slow-mo. Yeah, let's do one more time. Ooh, nice. Nice. Play like 40 or 50 more times, and then we can wrap up the show. But just, it's apparently great white just jumping out of the water. How do they do that? They must be swimming so fast. Those things are huge. Just jump out of the water. So I'm telling you, when we start bringing back the old species, we got to do the megalodon. Just multiple times the size of the great white. We really missed out. We really need that back. And we should put them directly around Alcatraz for fun and for intimidation. And that's where you should go if you're a bad person. That should be our, if you go to an Epstein Island, you go to an Alcatraz Island. That's got to be the way to go for America going forward. All right, I like it. Let's bring it back, and I hope Trump can get it done. That would be an absolute blast. That's today's show. We have a lot of big stuff planned for the rest of the week, so I will resist teasing that to you. But we got some big guests lined up and some big stuff to talk about. But hot news, always head over to Breitbart.com. Thanks for subscribing to the Breitbart Fight Club. If you guys do that, thanks to producer Misty and all of you in the audience. Talk to you tomorrow.